Vice News just put out a hit piece on me. America's most influential conspiracy theorists are going all in on transphobia. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend, where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters. Today, we have a special treat for us, ladies and gentlemen. A left-wing propaganda outlet called Vice, vice.com. Sure, you're typically not there because it's just all leftist propaganda. I mean, talk about being obedient to the narrative. Anyway, Vice News, they put out a smear article on me, and I thought we'd take a look at that together. Now, setting the stage, I'm not here to make fun of Vice, even though I think they put out complete trash, but just like, who are they? So, a handful of years ago, one valuation had their company valued at close to $6 billion, and they have been absolutely going down the toilet. Right now, some estimates say they're struggling to be a $400 million valuation. So down from 6 billion to 400 million, that's quite a drop. And it makes sense when you look at what's happening to mainstream media, even though I guess Vice probably isn't considered mainstream media, but it's incredibly obedient to the mainstream narrative. We see CNN, just all of them are going down the toilet. We've seen CNN numbers for their nightly shows. They're just absolutely embarrassing. So it's happening across the board because people have lie detectors. They know when they're looking at complete crappy propaganda. There's a smaller percentage of the population that wants to see that. They probably believe it. Cool. I'm all about freedom. Watch what you want to watch. That's cool. But most people have awakened to a degree where they say, like, it's just biased, opinionated garbage that is very true to the narrative and very disrespectful to the truth. Vice seems to be just that. They've done a little other smear pieces on me before, and I assure you, aside from being really devastated, it absolutely amuses me. And I take it as a good sign. When I look at a propaganda enforcer, when they're looking at me or other freedom fighters and trying to paint us in a negative light, that is absolutely affirming. It's like, dude, thank you. Thank you. If you thought I was a good guy, I would know I'm doing something wrong. So it is an absolute honor. And, you know, when I looked at President Biden's, very popular president, when I looked at his, 12-person list of the 12 biggest spreaders of misinformation online, came out a year or two ago, I was disheartened I didn't make it. I mean, we saw amazing people on there. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Joseph Mercola, and they deserve to be on that list because they're spreaders of truth. So of course the tyrants, welcome to 1984. If you're speaking truth, we call that misinformation. So it's an absolute honor to be smeared by people who stand for trash. And before we take a look at some of the highlights of the article, and I'll give you some commentary, there's also some just completely inaccurate information. And honestly, there's some things they wrote about me that I wholeheartedly agree with. I will say, Vice, they reached out to me for comment, let me know they're writing an article on me, didn't say what it's about, asked me for a comment on some certain questions, and I know what Vice stands for, so I'm smarter than to give them a comment. Because anytime someone's trying to smear you, that's their agenda. They're not out for the pursuit of truth that is actual journalism. These are left-wing activists. So I didn't respond to the email. It's like, dude, no matter what I say and how I phrase it, of course they'll 1984 my words up and try to use my words against me, which honestly probably would have amused me more seeing that in the article. So let's take a look. Here on vice.com, they probably get 3 or 4 monthly users on their website. Congratulations. America's most influential conspiracy theorists are going all in on transphobia. First off, Vice, thank you for the compliment that I'm one of the most influential. And second off, and most importantly, thank you for considering me a conspiracy theorist. What's the definition of a conspiracy theorist? Someone who knows the truth 6 months in advance. So The day we live in, you are either a conspiracy theorist or you're a coincidence theorist. I am proud to be what we're now calling conspiracy theorists. It's like, cool, a lot of theories are very correct. And you're considered a conspiracy theorist if you don't obediently bow down, accept, and reinforce the narrative. That's what you are. And I think you should be proud to be one as well. Okay, so we've got this picture from a video I did, very proud of it, by the way, Transition Chocolates, which was doing a parody on the, maybe 2 months ago, the Hershey campaign, using men who are in woman face to promote their chocolates. Then Daily Wire came out with Jeremy's chocolates. So I came out with this video to parody all of it, but trump them and just go that extra mile because I care. Starts off, in 2014, J.P. Sears, then a new age comedian known for poking gentle fun, safe space here, thank you for phrasing it that way, poking gentle fun at the pieties of people in the yoga and natural health worlds, made an unusually serious video. So apparently I did this video in 2014. I don't remember it, but take him at face value. In it, facing the camera, thank you for clarifying that, Vice. Usually when people are making videos, they're facing away from the camera. So thank you for educating your 3 readers that I was facing the camera. This is stellar writing. In it, facing the camera and speaking softly, he expressed his unqualified support for gay marriage. I don't know why they're trying to bash that, like calling it unqualified support. I guess maybe they're saying you shouldn't support gay marriage unless you're gay. I don't really know why they would call it unqualified support for gay marriage. But yeah, sounds like something I would have said in a video back then. So I guess this is quoting me. If there's anything that I think should be banned, it would probably be heterosexual marriage. Yeah, I remember saying that. He said jokingly, referring to how often straight marriages fail. All kidding aside, he added, he thought society would look back in the future ashamed. We'll look back, he said, and question, wow, how could we ever take away people's rights? Sears has taken a hard right and conspiratorial turn in recent years, becoming a relatively well-known figure in the world. Now, a couple of things on that. They didn't close the loop on gay marriage. So they're basically suggesting he was for gay marriage, but now he's taking a hard right turn and now he's against gay marriage. I'm not. I'm for gay marriage. I absolutely like that. Perhaps a different word should be used because my understanding now is that the definition of marriage involves man and woman. If that's the definition of a word and you're not man and woman, then maybe that's not a marriage. Maybe we should have another word. But on the principle of it, I was and still am all for gay marriage. But I love Vice's assumption, like, do we need him to not be for gay marriage because that'll make him look worse? You know, he's against the sexualization of children, so that also means he's against gay marriage. He hates puppies too, and I hear he eats cats. The second thing, he's becoming a well-known figure in the anti-vaxxer world. Now, the term anti-vaxxer, I'm proud of that. I used to think, I fell for the propaganda when you try to smear someone with that term. I don't know if I can really mention it on YouTube very much. But when you smear someone with that term, it's like, all right, like that, maybe that person is a little closed-minded. I used to admittedly be a little anti-you-know-what. But then I started doing my research and realized I had a closed mind there. And now, after doing a lot of research and learning more, I am proud to say I'm not a little anti-cab. I'm completely anti-you-know-what. So that part they got incredibly correct. Among other things, he emceed a large mandate march in Washington, D.C. last year. That's not what the rally was about. The rally was for freedom. So anyway, inaccurate journalism here. Emceed the rally in D.C., and he's appeared on a podcast with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the biggest name in the anti-world, and now a long shot presidential candidate. Absolutely. I am so proud to know and call a friend Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He is someone who rails against tyranny. He's someone who looks at the corruption in the government, how our different agencies like the FDA, NIH are corporately captured, and they're no longer here to serve and protect the public. They're there to serve and protect the corporations who tend to not only finance them, but also get people in their organization like heading up the government captured organizations. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr., glad to be cast in the same light as him. He's someone who has been smeared all over the place. Now, it used to be like the left loved him, but then the left, generally speaking, started losing their mind and became very obedient to the pharmaceutical business model. And while Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is out to protect the public and call out the Nuremberg Code violating tactics of pharmaceutical companies, now the left and these competing narratives they have in their head, which could be solved through free thinking. That's hard to do. But they've got these competing narratives like, oh, cool, like he was for the people. But now the past 3 years, we're told we're supposed to hate this guy because he is not an enforcer for the pharmaceutical companies who are incredibly trustworthy. They don't do anything wrong. $2.3 billion fine, largest criminal fine ever assigned in U.S. history, but they don't do anything wrong. You are a nutcase if you don't think the pharmaceutical corporations are operating solely in your best interest. Just ignore all the historical facts, ignore the crimes, ignore the 60,000 people who died from Vioxx. Just ignore the massive addiction problem from their opioids that they've been pushing. They knew they're addictive. Ignore all the deaths and devastated families from loved ones lost to these things. Ignore things you see in movies like Died Suddenly or The Real Anthony Fauci. Just ignore those. If you just ignore those, then you can see the pharmaceutical companies are out for your best interest. And therefore, we can think people like J.P. Sears and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are absolute lunatics for speaking out against them. Article continues. His views, now talking about me again, his views on gender and sexuality reflect that shift. In more recent videos, all made in the last few months, it's like, bro, where have you been? Been making these videos for the past 3 years, not past few months. Vice, you need to subscribe to my Rumble channel. You'll see I've been making them a lot longer than a few months. Sears has squeezed into women's bathing suits and sports bras to mock transgender athletes. Squeezed himself into a red mini dress to make a mock ad for a chocolate based on gender ideology. Thank you very much. I thought it was a good idea. And squeezed himself into a ripped tank top and clownish makeup to make a faux advocacy video calling for banning women in women's sports. So, that paragraph starts off, his new views on gender and sexuality reflect that shift. I don't have new views on gender and sexuality. My views haven't changed. For the record, anybody at Vice watching and just anybody else, I'm not against trans people. I'm not transphobic, probably depends on how you define it. But I'm not. I'm all about freedom. If a man wants to dress as a woman and say he's a woman, that is an exercise of freedom, which I support. What am I against? I am against the sexualization of children. I am against trying to flush away objective truth and abolishing speech that highlights objective truth. I am against someone using their imagination and trying to force that on other people as though it's objective reality. Those are the three things I'm against. Sexualization of children, abolishing objective truth and free speech, and compelled speech where you try to force people to adopt your imagination as though it's objective truth. That's what I'm against. And I will continue being against those things. And I am proud of those things. In what world is it okay to sexualize children? Now, unfortunately, the trans community has been infiltrated by pedophiles and agendas that aren't about supporting trans people. Like, I'm supporting trans people, like, be you, do what you want, freedom. It's great. That's what supporting trans people is about. But then they've got laced in the old ideology. Yeah, that, but also sexualizing children is just fine. And also, like, you're in trouble. You should probably be arrested if you don't call that man in women's clothing a woman and him, hers proper pronouns. And they might be made up pronouns, but you should go to jail if you don't adopt their pronouns. You're at a party with 45 people. You are expected to memorize all of their competing pronouns. If you don't, you are a phobic. You're definitely phobic of something. Phobic. Oh, by the way, it's kind of like that's suggesting it's wrong for me to dress up in women's clothes. Why? I'm a man. I want to dress as a woman for the video. Are you suggesting there's something wrong with a man dressing as a woman? Like, just because I have an accurate depiction of reality, and as I do that, I know I'm still a man, that's wrong. But if I get delusional enough to say, like, dude, I'm in women's clothes, so now I'm a woman, let me just tuck my pee-pee between my legs so I can't see them, I'm a woman. So that's wrong. But someone who actually earnestly believes that, lives in character, and mockingly wears women's biology, if you will, as a costume, which is absolutely not just the equivalent of blackface. It goes way further than that. That is okay. But you, JP, when you do it, are wrong. And now let's strengthen the propaganda. Sears isn't alone in his new fixation on mocking or decrying trans people, or in intimating? I don't know what intimating means. Maybe it's like intramating within your family. Intimating that a society that accepts them is fundamentally deranged. Dude, our society is very deranged right now. Couldn't be more deranged. Yeah, very deranged. I agree with that. For the past few years, across the broad conspiracy landscape, almost threw up, election deniers, QAnon enthusiasts, Alex Jones, and increasing engagement with transphobic ideas and rhetoric has been evident. We need a common definition of what transphobic is. Like, the definition of word is probably essentially like you're afraid of trans people. But I've just said my stance on trans, like for trans people. Freedom, do what you want to do. That's awesome. Against sexualization of children, against pretending objective biological truths don't exist, and against compelled speech, forcing people to regurgitate hallucinations. So with that, this is basically saying, dude, if you're against sexualization of children, you're transphobic. If that's the case, then all mentally stable people would be transphobic. There'd be a lot of trans people that are then transphobic, because I don't think most trans people are all about sexualization of children. Now, with transphobia as the current dangerous obsession of an alarming portion of the political mainstream, the conspiracy peddlers find themselves both hastening to not be left behind in position to grow their audience. Okay, so I think that's suggesting if you're speaking out against dangerous gender ideologies that you're doing that because it's a tactic to grow your audience. Maybe some people are doing that. That's especially true among potential new followers who might already hold some socially conservative views, conservatives are evil, about gender and sexuality, or those who distrust of the pharmaceutical industry predispose them to dismiss transgender identity as a product being sold by big pharma. Okay, I 100% distrust the pharmaceutical industry, and it is objectively true that trans identity is in fact a product being sold by big pharma, medical industry at large. It's literally sold. Here are your hormones. Guess what? They're not free. You have to pay us. That's the act of them being sold. You want surgery? We can do that. Guess what? It's not free. Guess what? Altogether, this will cost you $1 million for all of this transitional care. And guess what? You're going to need these hormone prescriptions for, I don't know how long, the rest of your life. It is objectively a product being sold by big pharma. And now the article starts to trail off. They're casting a big net here, smearing a bunch of people, lumping them in with yours truly. So we get to, hey, the Nashville shooter who was trans, like no big deal there. Then it goes into Donald Trump. Oh, this is good. Donald Trump's presidency created an ongoing discussion about what the distinction between the mainstream and the fringe actually means in a country where people holding our highest office promote intensely polarizing and stigmatized ideas, whether it's a congresswoman going on national television to call our political opponents a party of pedophiles, we definitely have that, or Trump suggesting we all bleach our insides to treat COVID. That hasn't been disproven, but I'm probably not going to do that. By a year or two into his presidency, the distinction may not have dissolved, but it has softened to a point of frequent and disconcerting meaninglessness. The topic of meaninglessness, that paragraph qualifies. So anyway, smear President Trump. Can't write an article without it. Next paragraph down, I'm not going to read this, but the summary of it is they're talking about the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset doing their bidding. Look at this. They're defending the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. Wow. And then next paragraph, I'll hit just the last line because it's fun. And right now, that shared focus is an all-pervading panic and hostility about drag queens and groomers. I like how they put groomers in quotations as though it's like that's a term the conspiracy theorists use, which is completely unqualified. So their quotation of groomers essentially to me means this author in Vice, they support groomers. Like nothing's wrong with it. So the conspiracy theorists call them groomers. Drag queens, groomers, transgender identity as being somehow contagious. Yes, ideologies are contagious. That's what propaganda does. Ideas spread. That's what school is. It's the spreading of ideas. Hopefully you have mostly good ideas in school. So this idea like, oh, ideas could spread, well, this is ludicrous. This article is an idea and it's literally being spread. That's why they put it on the internet. As somehow being contagious, the supposed sexualization of children by LGBT people, they forgot the Q. I am offended as a QAnon person. And the false claim that gender-affirming care is a form of abuse or mutilization. False claim. There we go. It's false. A nexus between anti-trans and anti-vax ideas is especially visible. Could the common thread potentially be the pursuit of, truth? Is that the common thread here? Major figures like Sherry Tenpenny, an osteopathic physician, and Stu Peters, a far-right podcaster, often share new articles and posts on their Telegram channels, stoking hatred and panic about trans issues. They might be stoking truth. You might say they're stoking hatred in order to smear them and discount their ideas and discount the truth that is presented that you might not have a logical argument to combat because the truth is the truth. Maybe. Okay, so it starts to get really long and really boring, so I'm going to scroll down. We mentioned Children's Health Defense and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. again, Dr. David Gorski, Alex Berenson, who I think he's the one that won the lawsuit against Twitter. Yeah, here's it. This is fun. As a term, transhumanism has also come to stand for any perceived technology or medical development that groups don't like, or anything to them that feels like it strays from God's design for our bodies. Yeah, pretty much. So now we're defending transhumanism, which is Vice standing for defending and enforcing the World Economic Forum's agenda. Thank you for making sure you get to that again, guys. Are you World Economic Forum phobic? Are you Klaus Schwab phobic? Are you transhuman phobic? Are you anti-God phobic? Are you being enslaved phobic? What is wrong with you? And scrolling down, because again, it gets, just really boring. Tulsi Gabbard, she gets a mention here. I love it. In a neat display of all the current dog whistles, former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard recently produced a video panic-mongering over an increase in the number of openly trans youth and what she called child mastectomies. What she, doing a mastectomy on a child, that's a child mastectomy. You don't have to quote that and what she called it like this, both of which she claimed were a direct result of the radical woke agenda being pushed on our kids by so-called healthcare professionals, mainstream media, social media, and even Biden directly. So they're trying to discredit Tulsi Gabbard. She calls this a direct result of the radical woke agenda being pushed on our kids. And then here's Vice basically combating that, like suggesting, dude, there's not a radical woke agenda being pushed. This article is the radical woke agenda being pushed. Like this Vice article is doing the exact thing that Tulsi Gabbard just called out. But of course, gaslighting is good. Like, dude, the thing that we're not doing the thing that we're doing. The thing that we're doing doesn't exist. Like, Antifa doesn't exist. There's Antifa rioting. They're hurting people and burning down. Yeah, Antifa, the Antifa you see there, they don't exist. It's just an idea. They're not real. They're right there. Dude, you totally don't see that. Don't be a far-right extremist. And then they even smeared Tim Ballard in Operation Underground Railroad, who rescues women and children from sex trafficking. Dear Lord, you need to smear this organization doing God's work. You need to discount their mission, pretend it doesn't exist. This is the devil's work. If you are trying to protect sex ring operations, children who are in them, if you're trying to protect them by smearing the people that take them down and dude, they're doing these they think the sex ring operations that they actually go into and rescue children, they think those exist. So you're smearing Operation Underground Railroad. That is the work of the devil. If you're trying to protect sex traffickers, I don't know what to tell you. Whether you know it or not, you are doing Satan's work. So they continue smearing Operation Underground Railroad for a while, like, oh, I guess you gotta protect sex traffickers. Dude, are you sex trafficker phobic? What is wrong with you? And now enter Dr. Malone. Of course, got to include him when we're smearing what we're smearing. Of course, honored to have Dr. Malone in this article with me. I'm team Dr. Robert Malone for sure. In a recent newsletter, the anti-scientist, dude, he literally invented vaccines. So he's anti-harm is what he is. Blogger Robert Malone wrote about a rapid onset gender dysphoria, a disproven diagnosis promoted by fear-mongering anti-trans groups, and which the World Professional Association for Transgender Health states is not a medical entity recognized by any professional association or listed in the DSM. Much of what he wrote wouldn't be out of place in any transphobic newsletter, involving as it does fretting about protecting children and promoting worn out and oft-repeated ideas about children being socially pressured to transition. So they're smearing Dr. Robert Malone on the basis that he promotes protecting children. They're saying protecting children is fringe, it's far right, it's conspiratorial, it's hate. Protecting children? Protecting children is the most sacred job on the planet. My shirt, faith, family, freedom, fitness. Family. It's in there. We have to protect children. And people who smear the idea of protecting children, guess what? That's who we need to protect children from. So Vice, thank you for identifying yourself. We need to protect children from you. And then very predictably, near the end of the article, they, of course, bring Matt Walsh into the equation, got to smear him. And then the article ends just kind of weirdly. You know, it's not trying to just be a narcissist and make this article about me, all about me, but come on, guys. So they started the article all about me. Then they got into, got to smear Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Stu Peters, Dr. Robert Malone, Matt Walsh, and then the article ends. Typically with an article or a well-written piece, there's some kind of like closing of the loop. It's cool, like started off all about JP Sears, transphobic, bad guy. Then cool, you bring up some other points in the article, and then you like close it out, like those other points, how do they tie into the first handful of paragraphs you started the article off on? But they didn't do that. It's just not very well written. But it is long, and at least it's boring. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody here. I'm just saying it is pretty long and boring, but also like entertaining at the same time. So nonetheless, that's the Vice article smearing me. America's most influential conspiracy theorists are going all in on transphobia. They want to protect children. They're not all about sexualization of children. What is wrong with these people? They don't think Big Pharma is out for their best interest. They don't want to be enslaved. What is wrong with these people? We've got to call them out in this article. Nonetheless, I'm glad this was written. It's great. It amused me. Hopefully it amused you too. And by the way, I'll say this from someone who at times is smeared on a relatively large scale. When it comes to you speaking your mind, be courageous, be bold, be principled, and know that your voice is your voice for a reason. The way God designed us, He gave us a voice for a reason, and that is to voice our perspectives. God gave us courage for a reason, and that is so we can have the fortitude to voice our perspectives when it's not easy. Courage also helps us voice our perspectives even when some level of fear is present. The most dangerous censorship on the planet right now is self-censorship. Even people who are lions, they can start pretending they're sheep for a second because they look at, cool, here's my voice, here's my perspective. I'm not going to say it because I fear what could be taken away. I fear what could be said about me. And I just want to say to that fear, because it's human nature, if you have that fear, there is nothing wrong with you. But if you have that fear and you don't speak your voice anyway, then there is something wrong with you. There's literally a disconnect between your own thoughts, your heart, and what your voice emanates. You either shut it down or you say something safe. And I don't say this in a mean way, but there's something wrong with you because that's not how you were designed to work. It's like, dude, when you got to take a poop, go poop. If you don't go poop when you need to, there's something wrong with you. You are constipating a natural process. So I just say this because my experience being smeared, sometimes on a large scale, everything is fine. It is absolutely fine. You know, when I see this article, my pulse doesn't even raise one beat. It is no stress. But even better than that, and something that I would invite you to consider, whether your fear is being smeared by one person or a specific person, or you fear being smeared by some kind of media outlet. Here is the reframe, and it's the truth. When you are smeared by people who are dedicated to not pursuing truth, and they're not dedicated to contributing to the betterment of humanity, when they're not dedicated to service, when you are smeared by them, that is not a bad thing. It is a good thing. It is a positive sign. It is a positive affirming that you are doing something correctly. You are being of service. If there's people who you hold in incredibly high regard and they smear you, first off, if they're in high regard, they're probably not going to smear you. They might give you some critical feedback. Those are the people you want to listen to. Like, I've got friends and family and people I know, mentors, people I look up to. And if I say something and they come back and they're like, hey man, I think you were a little off base and here's why, I want to pay attention to that. But when people are off the rails and they're just dedicated to an agenda that has destructive consequences, when they smear me, whoa, that's the good sign. The ending here is, do your best to have the courage to voice your voice. And when there's fear there, that's why you have courage. Courage gives you the strength and fortitude to say the thing and do the thing anyway. Courage is contagious. Courage is far more powerful than fear. I think courage comes from God. Fear, that might be an attempt of the devil or darkness to control you. So with that said, I really appreciate you taking this fun little journey with me. It's a unique time to just look at being smeared and have fun with that. And I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Awaken CBD. And I just want to share a little insider information with you. Awaken CBD, as you can probably tell by the name, it's a company I founded. And I'm so proud to bring this to market. The past 5 years in my personal life, I have been blown away by the health benefits I've gotten from CBD because I'm someone mentally and physically, I want to function at my best. When I've got obstacles, I don't like to be taken down. So I love using things that enhance my ability to feel and function my best. And there's a lot of CBD choices out on the market. Some of them are phenomenal, and there's unfortunately a lot of low quality options out there. The label doesn't state, hey, we're low quality. So because my life has been so positively impacted by CBD, I wanted to bring to the market CBD people can trust it. The quality control is through the roof. It's premium grade. It's all organically farmed. What you see is what you get. There's no trash in it. It's nothing but pure, potent CBD. We've got the CBD tincture. We've got CBD gummies that people are just loving. I've got CBD pain relief cream intensive rub and a couple other options, but it's a small boutique of select CBD forms that I absolutely love. And if you care to check them out, feel free. You can go to healthisfreedom.co to learn more and learn how to get your hands on it. And if you do want to give Awaken CBD a shot, I would say two things. One, please let me know your experience. I want your feedback. And two, let Awaken CBD earn your business. If you don't like it, if you're not blown away by the results, stop taking it. It's not for you. It's cool for whatever reason. I'm all about earning people's business. So if you love it, if you got great results and feel of its genuine benefit, you can get yourself on a monthly subscription where it arrives at your door every single month. You don't have to think about it. And if you don't like it, cool. We don't deserve your business. Capitalism. Funny how that works. And once again, it's healthisfreedom.co. Feel free to check it out. But in the meantime, I'll be looking forward to seeing you for our next video. And until then, stay free, my friends.